Very recently, I broke a friendship off. And I think that this sort of situation isn't really taught to people. Like, nobody's taught you how to break a friendship, without just ghosting them, right? It's like, how do you break a friendship off in a communicative and healthy way? No one fucking teaches you this, but there are situations where you'll have to do it. And so in this video, I'm going to tell you how I did it, and perhaps this will be useful for you. So around 6 to 7 months ago, I found myself unable to really have a meaningful conversation with my friend. We would hang out, but it felt like there was nothing to talk about. It was hard to bring up conversation topics. Like, in the moment, I just would not know what to say. Like, I don't know what to ask him. I don't know what to talk about. And a part of that was when I would ask him questions, the response was cold, devoid of warmth. It felt like he didn't want to talk. It was very curt. Right? It was polite, curt, but nothing more. Didn't feel like a real friendship. Right? Like a real friendship, you talk to someone, you want to keep talking to them. That was not this case. And that unnerved me, so I wanted to try and get closer, because what I thought was, well, we're not seeing each other as much, maybe doing more time will help. But that didn't work. Either he was busy, or whatever excuse he used to not hang out with me. And before I go on, I want to say that this video is not meant to berate him, right? Because I think that already at that time, there was already a desire to break the relationship off. And in my personal opinion, the relationship was already done from that point on. The relationship was already finished as soon as we couldn't really talk to each other in a friendly way. And I don't blame him for that. I'm sure I have flaws just like everyone else. But I'm using this as an example to hopefully teach you, so that you can have a somewhat successful break. So later on, we moved in together and became roommates. Right? And, things became somewhat hunky-dory at first. Things became better. We became a little more friendly. And I think that was because it was a novel experience, right? Until it wasn't anymore. And it was clear to me that we were no longer friends, right? Like, it was like little things, right? Like, with greetings, we would hardly greet each other. And over time, we just stopped greeting each other. And that was one of the little things. Another one was when I would talk to him, it was a sense of not being heard, or like he just wasn't there. He was distracted. He was not present. He wasn't focused on me. And that hurt. And once again, devolving into not being able to talk to him. And so all of these culminated in a desire to end the friendship. But I didn't, because when the time came, because when I did end up talking to him, I would get this reassuring feeling that everything's okay. But that was just a sort of sedative. That was like Soma. If you've read Brave New World, Soma in Brave New World was a drug that basically was a sedative to the population. And looking back, it really was like getting my fix. And so things went like that for 5 to 6 months. And very recently, things came to a close. And so this is where I tell you how to end a friendship. And you do not do it over the phone. You don't text them. You don't email them. You don't use the internet whatsoever to do this. It has to be in person. It absolutely has to. Otherwise, it won't be the same. You can text him, I don't want to be friends anymore. And then even if he says yes, it won't be the same, because you will have things that you want to tell him. You will have things that will still be unresolved. So if you want to do this, you must do it in person. Otherwise, you'll probably regret it. And so, do you need a reason to talk to him, like a pre-reason? So you have your reason to talk to him, which is wanting to end the friendship. Do you want to have sort of an excuse to, talk to him a bit and then get into that topic? Personally, I did. It wasn't entirely intentional, but I did. Do I think that you need a fake reason? No, I don't think so. But I do think it would be easier if you already have a hard time talking to that person. On the other hand, how much time are you going to waste searching for this other reason? Right? How much time are you going to waste for that? It's probably going to be a lot. And personally, I would have ignored the conversation to end the friendship and instead just gone on a search for other reasons to talk to him, because it would have been too difficult, right? So I do see the value of having an excuse to talk to him, but I think that the best way is to be honest. The best way is to state your intentions. The best way to be communicative is to be communicative. It is to be honest. It is to state what you want to say. And just think about this. You already have a reason to talk to him. You are searching for an excuse to first talk to him and then bring up the actual topic you want to talk about. Why not just skip the first part and just talk to him? Well, because it's more difficult and it's painful. But it's going to be painful either way. It's going to be painful whether you have an excuse to talk to him or not. It's going to be painful either way because you are breaking a friendship. And so let's say you are talking to him. What do you say? In your imaginations, you might say, I don't want to be friends anymore. You might want to be very blunt, but in real life, it's most likely not going to happen. Right? What I said was, I don't think this relationship is working. You can say friendship, you can say whatever. Right? It's less blunt, but it still gets the meaning across. And so, once you've said this, you wait for his response. And for me, my former friend took a minute, and he thought, and he replied, yeah, I agree with that. So, I was in a situation where both parties agreed that the friendship was not working and something should change. But you may not. What if he says, what do you mean? And for those who are in this kind of situation where the recipient isn't very clear, you have my sympathies, because it's so hard to keep on going. It's so hard to do all the legwork for this. But if it's something you want, it is your responsibility to do so. And it will make you better. It will make you stronger when you come out of this. It's so much easier to say, oh, just kidding, I wasn't serious, or never mind. But don't, because you will regret it. This will be one of the things that you will regret. So, think about why you don't want to tell him, Well, he might react badly, then we might not actually be friends anymore. I'll be alone, I'll die. And you can go through these reasons, and eventually you always come back to, I'll be alone, and then I'll die. Because it always comes back to death. Pretty much, always. And if you have pondered, if you have meditated on death for a while, if you practice that, it'll be fairly easy, I would say, to disregard this fear, to overcome this fear, because you have thought about death time and time again, that you're used to it. You're used to feeling this fear of death. And if you can do it, if you can overcome this fear of not being, or if you can overcome this inability to not tell him, then do tell him what it is that bothers you, I don't feel like you're present when we talk. I don't enjoy our hangouts anymore. I don't feel like we're being actual friends anymore. Tell him what you mean. And the thing is, you may not actually have to end the friendship. Right? It happened to me, but it may not have to happen for you. If you tell him what bothers you, and he changes, all is well. Right? You keep the friendship, and the friendship's better. But you wouldn't have gotten that outcome if you didn't have the conversation. So really, in the end, it doesn't matter all too much about what you say to him, like how you phrase things. As long as you get your meaning across, as long as you tell him your true feelings, that is what matters the most. And so for this last segment, I'm going to talk about how do you grieve when a friendship ends. So personally, because I felt that the relationship already ended like 6 to 7 months ago, I had lots of time to grieve the gradual changes, between the start and the formal declaration, right? But you may not, if you're just deciding to do this right now, you may not have had weeks or months to toil with the idea. But I do think that if you're having this thought of breaking a friendship, you've toiled with the idea for weeks, if not months. Because breaking a friendship is very difficult. And if you are thinking of doing it, I think that you have definitely thought about it. You've definitely thought this through. And if you haven't, visualize a world that you live in without your friend. Visualize doing things without that friend, Not having dinner with them, not hanging out with them, not going to events with them. Imagine living without that person. Imagine if that person didn't ever exist again. From this point on, he just didn't exist. Imagine that. And personally, I think I was lucky because I lost all these things before the formal declaration. But perhaps you didn't. And so I want you to imagine living a world without your friend in the hopes of preparing yourself for the reality that will come to be if you end the friendship. And so finally, I'll ask you this. After reflection, after thinking about living without that friend, do you still want to do this? Do you still want to end the friendship? Now, it's not entirely up to you. But if it were up to you, do you still want to end it? And If you do, if you still do, that's your answer, and you should go do it. If you don't, but you want things to change, go talk to him. If you don't, and you don't want things to change, okay, why are you watching this video in the first place? But if that's the case, then there's nothing to do, right? And so I leave you with that. I hope that you have gained something out of this, and if so, please give me a like, subscribe, and leave a comment, and I'll see you next time.